Okay, good. I can now see three people. How about the others? Open your camera, please. If you have a good internet connection and if your devices are doing good, please make use of that. Open your cameras. Okay. So for me to know what lesson will I be presenting, someone na si Teacher Leia, wala ka yung lesson. Bitaw, we will be having our refreshers or our recap. Last meeting, what did we do? What was our discussion all about? Anyone who can remember? Yes? We discussed the trapped. So if you may have checked your timetable, what is our lesson next to the trapped? We will have a reading lesson. So allow me to share my um screen now. Our lesson for this afternoon is a reading one. Can you still remember your um can you still remember that reading book we used to read when you were in grade 7? Can you still remember that? What is that book again? I think that was Stars or Scars. Are you sure? Trap was our lesson last meeting?
Yes,
Yes,
Ah,
sure.
okay, sige, sige. So we're on the right track pa. Sige. So, please tell me if you can now see my presentation. Going back again to my question, can you still remember that book we used for reading? I think that the name of that book is Stars or Scars, if I'm not wrong. Can you still remember that one? If you can still remember that book, um, that book is designed for learners to improve or enhance their reading skills or their reading comprehension. In what way? By providing a lot of strategies for an effective reading. Now, in today's session, we will be discussing reading strategies. So, that whole book, diba, there were a lot of strategies written in that book for you to follow and apply that in every story that you will be reading. Now, in today's session, we will be summarizing the most commonly labeled as effective strategies for reading. So please tell me if my presentation is showing na. Now showing. Can you now see it?
Not yet, sure.
I have to accept myself pa. Okay, now can you now see my presentation? Okay, let's start now. Without wasting more time, let's get started. Again, our lesson for this afternoon is a reading one. We will be discussing what are the mostly used and most effective strategies for an most effective strategies used for an effective reading. So here is our question, our preliminary question to start the discussion. I know this is a very basic question that you might think now, why do we have to, why teacher Leia would ask me this? This is very simple. We all know that when people read, we read whether aloud or we read it silently. Now let me ask the class, let me see, how do you read? Again, we have two choices, di ba? Normally, I think there are two ways lang on how people read, either silently or loudly. So let me see, how do you read? Like, oftentimes, how do you practice reading? Do you do it loudly or silently? Please share your answers here in the public chat. Share your answers now. Silently from Ira. How about the others? Really, when you're at home, I think we have really practiced silent reading since the very beginning pa siguro, since we've attended school. Kay in the library we are prohibited to read loudly. So I think through that we have practiced then to read silently. Kay in the libraries we are not allowed to read loudly. I talk when I read, but I can also read silently. So that's good. So when I was still in college, allow me to share this one. I attended a speech class, and then we invited a speaker who's a member of Toastmasters. Are you familiar with Toastmasters? I think that's an organization of speakers, professional speakers. So yeah, we invited that speakers. And then one lesson I learned from that speaker is whenever we read now and if given the chance to read it aloud, we need to practice reading aloud daw, because it will not only enhance our reading comprehension, it will not only enhance our pronunciation, but also our vocals. So reading aloud, like 30 minutes to an hour a day, can surely enhance our reading comprehension, our pronunciation, so as our vocals. Okay, so that's it. Now let's proceed to the second question. How will you know if you are reading effectively? So you have said that you read silently, you read it aloud sometimes, but I have here a question. How will you know if you are reading effectively? Sige, let me ask the class. What are your identifications for you to say that, okay, I am reading well. I read that well. What are your answers? How will you know if you are reading effectively? Send it here in the public chat. If you understand the words that you read, correct. What more? How will you know if you are reading effectively? I am a good reader. I am effectively reading this because what? I was able to understand the story. Yes, I think that's it. I don't know if it's only me, but whenever I'm too preoccupied, well, I think most of the time lugaw kay ko. Like I tend to think a lot, and then whenever I read, na-notice din ako, I think I've read 10 pages already, but I cannot recall what I have read. Like I have been reading a number of pages na, but wala ko yung na-gets. Kumbaga, that is what we call as passive reading. So that is an indication that you are not reading effectively. So in contrast to that, you are reading effectively if you can truly understand, if you can truly comprehend, or if you can still recall what you have read. Diba? So that is what we call as effective or active reading. Now, in today's session, we have here our objectives. You should be able to familiarize the various reading strategies for an effective reading. Second, find the strategy that suits your learning style. So I think we have differing styles when it comes to learning. Diba? There are people who find it productive to study whenever they listen to music. There are people who find it effective to study whenever they move or they dance, di ba? These are the different two of the many styles that people have when it comes to learning. So in today's session, I hope we can find our respective chosen strategy to enhance our study skills. Thirdly, recognize the reading strategy utilized in different reading events. Now, let me have this last question before we will start enumerating the different strategies of reading. What is the goal of reading? When I ask you, class, how will you know if you are reading effectively? You answered if you can understand, and I think that is the main goal, diba? When we read, our goal is to learn. Our goal is to understand. So that is, in other words, called as comprehension. So comprehension is the process of this is both interactive and strategic. So rather than passively reading, okay, this is what I have mentioned a while ago. Iba ko tong passively reading, daga na kay kag read na pages, but if you will try to summarize and to point out the important points presented in the text that you have read, you cannot recall. So that is passive reading. Why is it called as passive reading? You are reading it, you're using your mouth to pronounce the words, you are using your eyes to read the words, but you are not internalizing it. You are not analyzing it. So that is passive reading. So in contrast, in order to do an effective reading, we need to analyze and then internalize. So in order to learn comprehension strategies, you need modeling, practice, and feedback. So let's get started with the first strategy of reading. The first strategy is the use of prior knowledge or the previewing. They said, if you will rely on your stock knowledge when you go to college, you will certainly be stuck in college. What is this stock knowledge? Diba stock knowledge is like a hidden cabinet inside our brains wherein all the documents, all the information that we we have learned already are in there. So in reading now, we can apply the strategy previewing. Like we need to ask ourselves, have I encountered this before? Do I have any idea about this? Have I learned this before when I was still in, like, let's say high school, when I was still in grade 7, in grade school, and so on? That is what we call as previewing. Let's say you are given a book, you don't have any idea about it, and then you look at the introduction, or let's say the title lang alone. Then you start previewing. Okay, let's say the book is all about cells, so you try recapping and refreshing what you know already about cells. So that is previewing. In that way, we can set our own frameworks, diba? We can already like picture out what could be the content of the book, or we can already set our expectations on what exactly should we be learning at the end of our reading. Okay, so that's one of um, the strategies of an effective reading. The second one is predicting. So, what is predicting or prediction in vernacular? Anyone? What is predicting, class? This is what we call as katong advance mag-isip, right? Predicting. What is predicting in vernacular? 9H. Yes?
Tagaan.
Pagna.
Imong tag-anon. Imong
Na.
tag-naon. Very good. So, di ba, whenever we read series, can you name one series that you are watching or you have watched already? I'm sure a lot of you here are subscribers of Netflix. So, what are the series that you are watching right now? Or series that you have watched? Wala ka watch of series? Yes? Can you give me one? Just for me to check if you are listening, be. 25, 21, Euphoria, Umbrella Academy. Okay, the last series I watched was, ano, nakalimot na ko. I cannot recall anymore. Basta, nag-watch ko Riverdale, nag-watch ko Emily in Paris, nakalimot na ko sa other. Okay, Modern Family. In reading daw, we can also apply predicting. Di ba, when you watch series, you tend to tag na, or you tend to predict what would be the next scenario, or what would be the next scene, what would probably happen next. In that way, we can keep our interest going. Kumbaga, with predicting the next scenes to happen with that kind of like strategy daw, it will tickle our interest in reading to read further or to watch further. So predicting, when you make predictions about the text you are able to read, you set up expectation. And from that expectation, it will keep you from reading next. Kay you have to prove it yourself that okay, my predictions were correct, or my predictions were incorrect. So as you read, you may mentally revise your prediction as you gain more information. So predicting is also a good strategy. Next, we have here the most common one, the identification of the main idea and summarization. Can you still remember our lesson with um identifying the key sentence, diba, or the main idea? So the identification of the main idea and summarizing requires that you determine what is important and less important. Aside from that, if you can identify the key sentence or the main idea, it will um, save you a lot of time, especially when you are reviewing na. When you review, you will just simply look for the main ideas. Aside from that, summarization. If you can summarize the text that you have read, if you can summarize it concisely and comprehensively, that can really say a lot if you have really read the text well. Okay? Next, we have here questioning. Now, let me ask everyone, whenever I give you lessons, literary lessons, how do I give it to you? Like, I mean, like, my strat in giving you literary lessons. What are your observations? Whenever I give you literary selections, diba? First, I will give you the guide questions, and then I will give you the time for you to read. So that's an example of the questioning strategy of reading. So through questioning, Asking and answering questions about text is another strategy that will help you focus on the meaning of the text. So we can apply this strategy before and after. Diba? Let's say you don't have any study buddy. You are studying on your own. You are reading alone lang. Before you read a certain article, before you read a certain book, you can write down all the questions that you would like to ask about the book. Let's say you write na beforehand, who is the author of the book? What is this book all about? What lessons will I be learning from this book? Who are the characters? And so on and so forth. So let's say you don't have any idea pa about the book, so you can write down all your questions. That's one way of applying this strategy, applying it before reading. So by the time that you will read the book, you will be more focused on the things that you would like to learn since you have already the question. And that is what we call as the guide questions. So if you are given with the guide questions while you are reading, you will be more focused on the details that are asked in the guide. So you can do that one. Okay. The next one is the application of questioning strategy at the end. So let's say you will be reading the book first, and then the next thing you will do is to review. So if you want to review what how well you have read the text or how much you have learned from it, you can write your own questions. Ikaw na nagtanong, ikaw lang din magsasagot. Okay? So that's again a helpful strategy for us to improve our reading comprehension. Next, we have making inferences. So what is this? Making inferences is about reading between the lines, making conclusions out of explicitly or implicitly stated um, sentiments, I mean, points in the text. So you must learn to draw on your prior knowledge and recognize clues in the text itself. Making inference is about reading between the lines and using your prior knowledge, using the explicitly and implicitly stated points in the text, and then making conclusions out of it. That is making inference. Okay? Next, we have here visualizing. Now, let me check if you are still listening. Kindly click the raise hand button if you are still alive. Click the raise hand button. Okay, good. Isa, still there? Okay. So we have here visualizing. When you were still in grade school, I'm very sure you can still compare. You can still contrast the books you have right now from the books you had when you were in grade school. What are your observations? When you were in grade school, your books were filled with what? And then compare it to your books now, Marina. Yes?
Pictures and images.
Pictures and images. How about now? When you are now in high school, what are your observations?
Most
Diba,
important.
you are now in grade school.
It's
What are your,
wordy.
I mean, in high school? More words and less symbols or less images provided. So visualizing, studies have shown that students who visualize while reading have better recall than those who do not. So readers can take advantage of illustrations provided, but the challenge is now that you are in a higher level na, books are designed with more complexity compared to when you were in grade school. Kay sa grade school kay, kumbaga feed na, di ba? Like there are illustrations, there are drawings to to make the text simpler or to summarize the important points in a way that it's easy to for the students to retain the information. But this time, 'di ba, you are now in high school, less illustrations, more words. Sometimes in one chapter, maihap ra gid ang drawings, right? So, the challenge here is to practice visualizing as a reading skill, because when you do visualizing, I mean when you do visuals in doing your studies, it will help you to have better retention on what you have studied. So yes, who among you here in this class make of visuals? Like they make graphic organizers when they study. If the text is, I mean, if what's in the book is merely words lang yun, so you create your own graphic organizers. Is there anyone in this class who do that? Wala. Okay, wala. So I think you rely on what is provided in the book. So it's best to start practicing that one, okay? Because that is very effective. Next, we have here retelling. So retelling is a story, retelling a story in your own words forces you to analyze the content to determine what is important. What do we mean when we say retelling? Let's have it in a scenario na lang. When you study daw, it is best to read what you have read and then retell it. Close the book and then you retell, you narrate what you have read. So teachers or we or even you yourself, you can encourage yourself to go beyond literally recounting the story. So diba retelling what you have read can encourage you to can force you to use your own words in narrating or in summarizing what you have read. So retelling again is a very good strategy for better retention on what you have read. And then lastly, finally, we're on the last one. Graphic organizer. So I've mentioned this a while ago. This is also part of visuals. So graphic organizers provide visual representations of the concepts and expository text. So graphic organizer, 'di ba, can summarize, it can show relationships, and it can present ideas graphically, of course, which can greatly help you in understanding and remembering the points or the lesson. So here are samples of graphic organizers. We have Venn diagram, we have T charts, storyboards, concept map, KWL chart. So these are examples of graphic organizers, but there are more. Graphic organizers are very helpful. Mas better siya if you yourself you are using graphic organizers while you are studying, because mostly sa exams or tests, there are graphic organizers that needed for you to fill in. Like mostly Venn diagram, di ba? That's always used in contrasting and comparing two subjects. We have also concept mapped, diba? We have also storyboard, very commonly used in English for lessons about stories. So it's good to familiarize graphic organizers and how these are used. So that's it. Well, from all the strategies I have presented, starting from previewing down to graphic organizers, which reading strategy do you think works best for you? Let me see. What are your answers? Visualizing from Pauline. How about the others? Okay, visualizing. But I think because visualizing is entertaining in a way that it will tickle our creativity, right? Visualizing. Visualizing, still more words. I know. Sorry, visualizing. How about the others? Wala the retelling when you read stories or when you study, di ba? When you study, it's best to retell it. What more? Wala the questioning. Like you ask someone to provide you questions and then you will be the one to answer. When I was in high school, I have classmates who practice that kanang questioning. Like, mag-write sila sa flashcards and then they will ask our other classmates, so, can you please flash the questions and I will ask it and I will answer it. So some students do practice that one. I think even up to date. Yes, visualizing tanan. Okay, sige. I will no longer force the other strategies, but you have learned already the other strategies. Please try practicing them. I'm sure that these strategies will greatly help you in your studies. So, knowing already your chosen strategy, I hope that you will practice the other strategies. Okay. So, any questions or clarifications before we will have our quiz? Any questions or clarifications, class? Hello, questions or clarifications?
None, sure.
None. Okay, sige. So, we will be having now our quiz. The title of the quiz is G9ENGQ403 reading strategy. I will still be publishing the quiz, so please be on standby in Silid. Keep on refreshing. Once the quiz is accessible na, start in answering immediately. Okay? I immediately start in answering the quiz. Just wait for my go signal. So while I will be publishing the quiz, please scan your notes. Thank you. Hello, class. Kindly check your lead. The quiz is now accessible. Thank you. Hello, class. May I know who are done in taking the test? Kindly send Dawn here in the public chat. Sorry, quiz, I mean. Send Dawn so I can recheck it in Silib. Okay. Okay, you still have 3 more minutes left. To those who are still answering, you have until 2:15 to answer the quiz. Thank you.